Yehuda Levin, Levin. I'm the rabbi of a local synagogue here in Brooklyn, and I'm also the spokesman for the Rabbinical Alliance of America, a 68-year-old organization with 850 plus Orthodox rabbis nationally. I've been representing them and other rabbinic organizations for the past 3 decades.
Which is why you're so good, and which is why we're talking about an important issue. There was a wedding announcement in the Jewish Standard newspaper, and it raised a lot of eyebrows and they took a lot of heat. And then they pulled it. When they pulled that, or when they said, look, we're not going to post this kind of thing online or in the print edition, what was your sense?
Well, I was very edified and gratified because in the devolving culture, we are now seeing in the United States, all over with the Tea Party movement, religion is coming back into vogue. Many of the candidates are unabashedly religious, respect for religion, not piss Christ, not feces on the Christian religion. And so this is a positive thing that the Jewish Standard realized, albeit briefly, that hey, we have a 3,000-year-old tradition of marriage called sanctity, kiddushin, holiness, and our religion should not be mocked. Homosexual marriage is a misnomer which is very, very offensive. It's really an attack on religion. And it doesn't stop with homosexual marriage. Where does it go from here? Does it go to a father marrying his adopted daughter? Does it go to brother-in-laws? Does it go to lowering the age of sexual consent to 14, which the homosexuals are doing in England, so that it could be easier for them to find mates to marry? You can have an 80-year-old marrying a 14-year-old. Why not? We're not allowed to be offended by this. I think that religion is under attack.
Yes. The question I have for you is, what would you say to the couple themselves? You know, the couple is saying, they might come up to you if you were in a forum and say, what's wrong with our union and what's wrong with it being there for everyone to see in the Jewish Standard?
I say this because of Holy Writ. Because in our holy books, on the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, we read from the Torah scrolls in the Ark about sexual licentiousness. The last 3 categories found in Leviticus in the following order are adultery, homosexuality, and bestiality. We're going down a slippery slope, shades of equus. I won't be surprised when some people start to argue that they can have an exclusive relationship with their pet gerbil. But it's not Judaism, it's antithetical. Let's make that clear.
And the Jewish Standard is something that represents a tradition, Judaism specifically. So, you know, because I assume you don't have, assume it wouldn't matter if it were in some gay publication or maybe even the New York Times.
Look, this is what's so offensive. Are we going into gay bars and telling them close down? Are we going to gay porno shops or sites and telling them close down? But they're constantly pushing us. They're pushing into the schools. In New York State, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, they signed an anti-bullying bill to protect homosexual children or who assume they're homosexual or who their homosexual patrons assume are homosexual from bullying. They don't make an exclusion for religious schools. According to the state law right now, it's possible they can come into yeshivas to teach tolerance and respect for homosexuality. So they're pushing it down our throats, literally. And all we're saying is, Dayenu, stop, it's enough. Enough, just let us live. Don't make a mockery of our religion and marriage. Do what you're doing. We're not stopping it. It's between you and God. But they never stop pushing. I've watched this for 30 years. And we have to push. We have to push back. We have to put up a wall.
Yeah, and in some communities that's literally what is done. But you can't, there are leaks in that wall, and I know that's what you're concerned about for your own community. Question for you about the paper now leaning more towards saying we're apologizing for the apology. So you're happy to see that they made one decision, and now they seem to be very wishy-washy again and saying, well, we're going to revisit whether or not we put these announcements in. What would you say to the leaders, the editors?
I have an understanding of where a basically secular-oriented liberal Jew should start to feel a significant amount of pressure, and being in the media business should respond to that. I'm sympathetic to that. I would plead for that. You're now in the eyes of the country. Everybody is watching you. Stand up for your grandparents' Judaism. They sacrificed their lives in concentration camps, in inquisitions, to be holy people, a nation of priests and holy people. Not to put your fingertips and say, well, there were 300 people on the internet, so I've got to change the religion. It doesn't work like that. We can't maintain a faith for our children if we do that.
The religion is the religion. You say it's in here and it's clear.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this issue.
It's a pleasure. Come again.
You know,
Thank you.
yeah, we have a fascinating. There is nothing more fascinating in the study of religions than the sort of the secular Jews and the conservative Jews. I mean, it's such an interesting.
Let me tell you what's happening now. Just cue you in what's happening. There is now a culture conf, and it's more than a culture conf between religious freedom in America and what is called at any part, at any time in vogue, what goes under the rubric of human rights and civil rights. So if we now say what a person does in his bedroom, whether heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual, has become a civil right, it's a human right, and it deserves to be on par with religious liberty and freedom. So we have people like Chai Feldblum, the openly lesbian professor of law at Georgetown University, speaking at a symposia about this specific question. Whole symposia, the conflict between religious liberties and human and civil rights. And you know who wins in the United States according to the judiciary? Civil rights wins out. Thus you have Bob Jones University, who years ago said they don't believe in interracial dating. So Bob Jones, famous decision, I think Supreme Court, lost all governmental programs. And basically they are looked at in the eyes of the law as discriminatory and bigoted. We are now watching ourselves go down the road, all religious people, just because we believe in God and the values, we are being called bigots, discriminating. They'll take away our tax deduction, they'll make us separate citizens, and we will be the equivalent of people who didn't accept the blacks as full citizens. And that's an outrage. It's wrong and it's unfair. Let us live as Jews here. God bless America. What do we want? We're not marching on the gays, they're marching on us. We're not pushing into the schools, they're pushing into the schools. Leave us alone, let us live our lives. That's where the next step is. The next step is in the courts as these things become law. We just saw in Proposition 8, we just saw the majority of Californians voting against it. So what happens against a homosexual marriage? What happens? A homosexual activist judge, defined as such by the San Francisco Chronicle, comes out of his judicial closet and he writes something that's so outrageous, criticizing religion, really, literally considering us as bigoted, discriminatory, crazy. He decides everything, and he overturns the will of the people, and then he resigns. He's gone. He resigned now. I mean, is this fair? I mean, we don't even have a fair playing field. And I asked the editors of that newspaper too.
So you're saying if the gay couple or the interracial couple or any couple, anybody in America should be able to live the life they want. But so should you.
That's right.
Firm in your religious beliefs, a tradition that dates back centuries. And yet, if you look at it, you feel under attack.
Right. We are losing ground. Until
you can't exist.
If I'm living in a 3-family unit house, and a homosexual couple comes and they want to wear gay and proud and t-shirts and everything else, why should I be in a position that I have to rent the house that I sweated to buy and to pay a mortgage for in these hard economic times? Why should I have to have something that's antithetical, that's going to cause my kids to ask questions and to flaunt it, and then they'll have their friends.
Well, my understanding is you're in a country you wouldn't have to rent it.
That's
not true.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect. That's
you would be discriminatory and you could be sued.
That's it. And I think
and you could lose that home and you could lose everything.
Very quickly. Atlanta, Georgia, a photographer, a psychiatrist would not decounsel a homosexual couple, lost his license. New Mexico, a photographer wouldn't photograph a gay commitment ceremony, religious Catholic, paid $5,000 Human Rights Commission without a state law on homosexual marriage.
Sure. Those two doors,
Methodist
both of them.
Church had a church, a hall for marriages, didn't want to rent it to a homosexual couple. They lost their tax deduction on the hall. That's just the beginning.
Clearly you're being told by your government, as is maybe Catholics are as well and other people,
Right,
your religion must change.
Doesn't count, right.
To reflect the reality of our society.
Exactly.
And you're saying, why should it have to, how can you force it to change in a place where religious expression is supposed to be protected?
Nobody sees us marching on the homosexual.
I guess I haven't seen. I haven't seen Orthodox Jewish groups. Yes.
Nobody sees us fulminating against them. Live and let live. You're going to have to stand before God. I mean, by the way, the Orthodox community has an open offer when somebody has a problem. And honest to God, I'm sitting here in the sanctuary. I have compassion on a person who has heterosexual urges for young kids, or for adultery, and homosexual people. I understand that they've been given a great challenge, spiritually and religiously. And we're willing to try to help them. There are organizations, we have rabbis, we have psychologists, psychiatrists. We're willing to offer to try to help. Not just to say, if you get this urge one day, there are many people who have left their marriages after 20 years because of the popularity of the homosexual culture. Clearly, they fathered 3, 4, 5 children. We would like to try to help these people. Similarly, a child's sexual identity is absolutely in flux. I can bring you proof from the American Pediatric Association. Really, so give them a chance instead of starting. You know, I ran for mayor of New York in '85. Koch writes about it in his book. I challenged him on the homosexual issue. I said he's running New York City like a giant Greenwich Village single spot. And they were giving out in the library in 1985.
The second
1985, what is it, 15, 25 years ago, 40 years ago, they were giving out Gay and Proud in the student section, in the kids section. Why does the kid have to be forced to have, or to be exposed? He's forced to be exposed to a lavender reading schedule with the most crazy books.
Well,
Why?
you know this
I mean,
is at the
it's
forefront
not
of the media right now with the Rutgers case. I mean, this story we're doing is
it's tangential,
small compared to
but
what's
you know
being
what the
discussed.
answer is, and remember I told you I would tell you to ask the harder question. You should ask me, Levin, how do you feel? What do you want from this kid? He was 18 years old or something like that, I don't know exactly, and he had an assignation with another man, and he was so embarrassed by it that he committed suicide.
Yeah,
so if you would ask me, that's a tough question. So the first thing is, I'd answer you like this. I have, honest to goodness, I have compassion for him, just like I have compassion for somebody who wants a forbidden woman because she's married, or who just gets heavy feelings of emotion for 14-year-old kids. However, I don't change the rules because of that. I don't embrace something that I believe from my Bible to be anti-family values because of that. What I do is I say, it's so unfortunate that there's such a pronounced emphasis on everything homosexual, queer as folks, etc., that a lot of kids who are still in flux are experimenting. And if I would have the opportunity, I would have loved to counsel this person to provide options for him. Maybe he was not happily homosexual. Maybe he had a momentary, so I just feel that it's unfair of the other side to use this like they used the Matthew Shepard thing to pass all kinds of legislation that is going to be harmful to millions of people. I believe where that young man is now, in heaven, in front of God, he does not want that in his name there should be a beating up on family values people simply because we adhere to God and religion.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who watched the movie Trembling Before God, I'm sure as learned as you are, you watched it too, just to see.
I did not. I've addressed it, and I'm
you
very
addressed
familiar.
it. You're familiar with it, so you kind of know these.
Yeah,
so
I'm very familiar with
it. That is,
but listen,
that's a story of people leaving their faith, but that's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
People are going to leave their faith.
But we don't lower the bars. In other words,
you don't say, I don't want to lose these 5 people, so let's lower the bars considering,
we have to say rights is right, even in biblical times when there was a majority of people that were sinning, or there was a significant minority, such as the golden calf, and they were dancing around and committing idolatry and licentiousness. Moses didn't come down with the tablet and say, guys, we took it to a plebiscite. This community, 3 miles from Sinai, wants it.
Let's go.
Okay, that's it. Out the window. Exactly.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much.